Hello, Quantum Tribe community. I am so excited to share the session with you. It's December 2019, and as the year draws to a close, what better time to take a look in the rear view mirror. I came across this quote many, many years ago. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. So let's take this time to reflect on the year that has gone by. Self-mastery comes when we really, really get to know ourselves. So through the session, we're going to reflect on the last year and understand ourselves on a deeper level. This session is going to require lots of work. You're going to be doing some writing, which means you're going to pause this video every time you need to go and do an exercise. So we're going to reflect on 4 different levels today: the mind, emotions, behaviors, that's a very interesting one, and our habits. So let's look at the mind. You don't lose it. You don't use it, you lose it, right? We know that one. It works in 2 ways here. Firstly, we know already that when we think a thought, the neurons in our brain fire, and we repeat that thought, it fires again, and eventually it wires together. And I put this picture here specifically to show you what that looks like. There's the neurons that fire together, and eventually they will wire together, which means at that point, we use the term hardwired. So it becomes a belief. It becomes your automatic go-to place. So something happens and you believe, let's say, for example, we have had a bad relationship and we hear and somebody's treating us very badly. So we may think thoughts like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't this person treating me well? Maybe there's something wrong with me. And then the more we say that and repeat that thought, it becomes hardwired. So now you go to work and there's a challenge there. Immediately your automatic go-to place is, it's me. I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. So this is how a thought can get wired. Now, the good part about you don't use it, you lose it, is that you can stop thinking certain thoughts and replace them, and those old beliefs will begin to unwire. Those neurons will unwire, which means you're releasing those old beliefs. And I think that is such a powerful thing to know. It's a process called pruning. It is so powerful because it means that when we start to identify where our limiting beliefs are, we can actually do something about it and change it on the level of the brain. So what I want you to do now as your first exercise is reflect over the last 1 year. Look at times in your life when you had some really wonderful moments, and also look at times when you've had some really challenging moments. And what were the automatic thoughts that were going on in your mind then? How did you look at it? Were you blaming someone else? Were you blaming yourself? Were you angry about it? Look at the thoughts. What were you thinking? Why did I do this? How could I have done that? How could I have let this happen to me? Where did I go wrong? Why do bad things happen to good people? What are the thoughts that were going on? So at this point, pause the video and do the exercise. Do the exercises full out, because by the end of the session, you will realize so much more about yourself. Okay, I hope you have done that exercise. Now we move on to the next one, which is emotions. This is usually the one where people don't want to go to very easily. Now, again, we're going to reflect over the last 1 year, And I want you to ask yourself, how often have you said things like, you make me so angry, or you frustrate me, you irritate me? Or have we said things like, you make me so happy? So when we are saying, you make me, what we're actually doing is we're giving our power away to someone else to determine how we feel. That means that person is responsible for how you feel and not yourself. When someone else is responsible, it means that they have to do something differently to change the way you feel. Now, just saying that, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So who owns your emotions? Look at the past year. Again, look at those happy moments, look at those challenging moments. And what was your dominant emotion? Who, in the happy moments, was somebody else responsible for that happiness, or was it coming from within you? In the challenging moments, when you felt angry or fearful or guilt or blame or shame, where was that originating from? Is it someone's opinion, someone's words, someone's actions that were making you feel that way? Or was that originating from within you? So again, take a moment, pause the video, and do this exercise full out. Okay, I hope that was a very illuminating exercise that you did. It's so important, that we recognize the dominant emotions, because like we spoke about last month, when we look at that emotional scale, those emotions at the bottom of the scale, like shame, guilt, blame, they're vibrating at a frequency of about 20 hertz, whereas emotions like love are way up there at 500. When we look at emotions like gratitude, it's way up there at 900. This is so important for us to know, because when you want to switch your vibration, you know that you need to start moving into the emotional state where you're feeling more love and peace and joy and gratitude. We appreciating things and people in our lives. That is when we pick up that frequency. So when we're vibrating at those lower emotions, we're actually diminishing that field around us, which then causes disease in the body. It causes a very chaotic mind. We're not feeling great. We slip into depression. Whereas when we're conscious and aware of what we are feeling and understand that we have the power to own our emotions, then we can take this and elevate those emotions. We can consciously elevate those emotions, right? If we start to shift our thoughts, we're going to start to shift the emotions as well. So as we start elevating those emotions and feeling the higher level emotions, we're raising the frequency as well, which means at that time we're expanding the field. And as we expand the field around us, we start attracting people and opportunities at a much higher level. We start becoming those master manifestors that we all want to be. And again, I'm going to remind you that to be a master manifestor, you have to take your frequency up to 480 or above. So remember, feeling love is 500. But how much of our time are we feeling the emotion of love or peace or gratitude? And how much of the time are we spending on those lower level emotions where we're getting angry, we're reacting, we're feeling guilty about things, we're feeling just listless, we're slipping into depression, we're focused on what is wrong and what needs to change in our lives. So become very aware of this. Last month, I asked you to do the exercise over the month where frequently you would stop in your day and say, well, what am I thinking? What am I doing? What's my frequency right now? And what can I do to raise that frequency, right? So let's move to the next one now, which is behaviors. This is very interesting when we pause for a moment and take a look at ourselves. And then we know whether we're reacting to what life is throwing us or whether we're actually living more consciously and responding to what life is giving us, right? So the first one is attack. This is where we blame, we complain, we judge, we punish, we gossip. Take a moment and think about a teenager. We all know at least one, right? So imagine you take the time and you take this teenager out to lunch. You choose a restaurant where you feel they're going to enjoy the food and the vibe, and you really plan it and you take them. And you get seated, the menus arrive, and not even 10 seconds later, they whip their phone out and they're busy on their phone. So what do you do? Do you immediately go, what's wrong with this person? You know, I brought you to a nice restaurant. I thought about it. I picked the food that you like instead of what I like. And here you are on your phone. Are we going to complain? Are we going to judge? What's wrong with today's teenagers? Are we going to punish by taking the phone away? Are we going to complain to, whoever else? So what are we going to do in that moment? What is your go-to reaction? If it is self-doubt, then we turn that inward. So the first one is we attack, we're blaming the other person. The second one, self-doubt, we start blaming ourselves. So, did I make a mistake? Did I choose the wrong restaurant? Am I too boring? Why don't they like me? Why don't they want to have a conversation with me? It's the fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being liked, right? Being the victim again, it's that what's wrong with me? Why don't they want to be here with me, have this conversation with me? Okay, so let's move on to see other ways that we could handle a similar situation. The next one is wait, which if we look at WAIT, what am I thinking? Or what am I telling myself? In this case, we become more conscious, more mindful, more present. We actually pause before we blame or take blame, right? So we actually pause. Okay, so what's going on here? We look at what is. The fourth one, which is detect, is where you get to a level where you are very self-aware. So you know yourself, you know who you are, you know what you want, you know what you don't want. You can be assertive but not aggressive. You can find out, you can set boundaries. So this is very different from the attacking or the self-doubt, right? And the last one is connecting. This is where we actually become curious about someone else's perspective. What's so interesting about that phone? And we develop more tolerance, understanding that that's a different generation. They were not brought up the way we were without technology, or this is a part of what this generation does now. So let me become more curious and find out what is it that is so riveting about this phone. So when we look at these 5, the first 2 are the reactive ones, whereas the next 3 are you becoming more conscious, connecting, and becoming more self-aware. So again, let's do this exercise. I want you to go back and look at those wonderful moments and look at those challenging ones, especially the challenging ones, because I think when things are going well, we generally respond with the bottom 3, right? It's only when our buttons are pushed that we look at the first 2 and react in those ways. So look at those challenges especially and observe your own behavior. How did you react to those challenging times? So pause the video here and do the exercise again full out. Great. I hope that was very illuminating for you. I know when we did the live session, people were amazed at what they saw in themselves. And it was an eye-opening exercise, I think. So I hope it was that way for you too. So the fourth section we're going to cover today is your habits. And this is something I think, take enough time, do a really deep dive into this one, because we want to end the year on a note where we're really seeing ourselves so that when we start January, we know those areas, we've identified those areas that we want to release, let go of, and we're starting to see those areas where we want to grow. So 4 habits. I want you to look at what are you doing on repeat? What is your automatic? So the first section is wellness. So here we're going to look at things like your meals. What are you eating? Are you eating on the run, or are you planning your meals? Are you doing more takeouts and restaurant eating, or are you actually preparing good, wholesome, healthy meals for yourself? Are you drinking enough water? Are you exercising enough? Are you relaxing enough? Are you de-stressing? Do you have a practice where you sleep at a certain time and you're getting enough rest as well? So that would be wellness. Let's look at relationship patterns, right? If you're in a relationship, what is working there? What are the challenges that you're seeing repeatedly in that relationship? If you're single, are you questioning yourself? Why are you still single? This is the time of year where families get together. And for those people that are single, the most common question is, so why are you still single? Not a very nice question to have to come up with an answer to, right? My go-to answer for that one would be, I really enjoy being single, but if you know someone really cute, maybe you should introduce me. So, a fun way of answering it rather than getting uptight and annoyed about it. So look deeply into your relationships and what is it that's working there, and what are the areas that you feel could do with some work. Then let's look at your money habits. Are you the person are you in debt? Do you have money coming in? Are you a spender? Are you very thrifty? Are you a saver? Are you someone that manages money well? Or are you someone that's, spending a bit too much, credit card debt, not really tracking your spending, shopping on things that are not really necessary? So take a look at your money habits. Then there's spirituality. In this area, do you have a spiritual practice? Is it religion that you follow? Do you go to a meeting every week, or are you someone that is more spiritual than religious, where you maybe meditate, or you have a connection that you're constantly connecting with the quantum field? What is your practice? Are you doing it consistently, or is it something that you do when you feel you need to? And the last section we're going to focus on is your goals. How do you handle your goals? What's your habits around goals? Do you set goals and then think about it and then forget about it? Or do you actually write them down? Do you follow through? Is it your habit that when you put down a goal, you will stay focused until you achieve it? Or is it a habit that when the first challenge comes, you say, I don't really want this anyway. This is too difficult. And you just let it go and go back to being comfortable where you are. So what are your habits around these things? So again, take some time, pause the video, take as much time as you want with this exercise, because the deeper you go, the deeper you're going to know where you're at right now. And change is only possible when we fully accept and see where we're at right now. Okay, so now that you've done this exercise and you've gone through those 4 sections, your exercise now is to look at all 4 of those sections. So you're very clear about these are your go-to thoughts, your go-to emotions, your behaviors, your reactions or responses, and your habits. You're looking at that across your life over the last 1 year. So now what we're going to do is I want you to take some time, go over that and ask yourself, what would I like to release or change going forward in 2020? What is it here that is definitely not working for me? Where am I sabotaging myself? Where am I playing small? So identify those, and then next to that, put down, what do I want to replace this with? So for an example, if we had to say that, I've been not really eating very healthy, so put on some weight. I'm eating in front of my computer, in front of the TV, and I don't take the time. So one habit I'd like to change is I'd like to prepare 90% of my meals at home, make them healthy meals. I'm going to look at my plate and make sure that there's nice color on my plate. I'm going to sit down at the table. I'm going to chew my food and I'm going to enjoy it. Be very conscious and aware of what I'm putting into my body. So that's just one example of what you want to release, what you want to replace it with. Now you're going to go through everything, the thoughts, what's your constant thoughts, the dominant thoughts in your mind, what do you want to release, what do you want to replace with? What is your dominant emotion? This one here, please, please, please take lots of time and look at that, because that emotion, that frequency is everything. If you want to change your life, if you want to live your best life, your ultimate life, then that frequency is crucial. We have to find out where are we spending most of our time, on the upper part of that emotional scale or the lower part of that emotional scale. And what can we do consciously to keep raising that frequency, right? So remember last time I mentioned, when we raise our frequency, something happens and we'll drop it again. We raise the frequency, something that we don't like happens, we drop it. So, but each time that you drop it, you're not dropping it way down to the point where you started. So you're coming down maybe 90%. Go up again, next time you drop maybe 80%. You go up, maybe you drop 50%. And you'll find that the drop is smaller and smaller until that becomes your new frequency. So it doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen in one exercise. It's something you're going to become conscious of and keep raising the frequency. Keep going to that place where you're feeling the emotions of love and joy and gratitude and peace. Those are the high frequency emotions, right? When it comes to your behaviors, it's very nice. Sometimes, it can be quite funny when we look at ourselves, observe ourselves, especially when you sit down here and you look over the past year and you can see how you behaved in certain situations. So which behaviors do you want to change there? That would be a very exciting exercise, I think. So that's where we are. You've got quite a lot of work to do for December. Some holiday fun as we head into the holidays. I want you to engage with at least 2 people from the Quantum Tribe community. So if you remember, you're in the WhatsApp group, look at the people in there and connect with at least 2 people that you don't know, that you haven't met before. And you can, if you're close by, meet for a cup of coffee, otherwise do a Skype meeting, use Zoom, get curious, find out who are they, what are their challenges, what do they dream of, what makes them feel most alive, how can you support each other, how can you hold each other accountable. Maybe it is to complete all of these exercises, share some of what you come up with, the realizations, those big aha moments. Share it with with these two people that you're connecting with. You can connect with a lot more than that. The whole idea of Quantum Tribe, when we started it, is to create this community of people growing together, supporting each other, becoming more conscious, more aware, sharing this journey so that our growth is continuous. Self-mastery is not an event, it is a journey. It is a journey that we've taken the step on. It's time for us to make the commitment to ourselves, put ourselves in that center space in our lives and say, you know, am I willing to put in the time, the energy, the effort to grow myself? Because when I grow myself, it must impact every single area of my life. When you become master of yourself, your relationships must improve, your career, your finances, your health and well-being, your sense of happiness. All of that will begin to improve when you focus on mastering yourself. So thank you very much, Quantum Tribe, for joining me. I wish you well over the festive season. Lots of joy. Go evolve. Be happy.